So you started to slow down and I couldn't hear most of the question, but what I got was that you by choice went on an adventure, and the idea of surrender, and that you decided to quit your job and then take this adventure, and then you dropped off. So I wasn't sure the ending of that piece.
Oh, so I was able to be in the place where traveling can be quite stressful for people, and especially, someone of my age, and, being a woman all alone. But I could choose those, whereas not having a job or not having a place to live is not always a choice or that easy. So yeah, I really commend you on just you flipping it around, and when you did that, then more things started opening up for you.
Yeah, thank you. They did open up. It's a strange energy to tap into surrender versus fighting the situation that you're in. A lot of people would say like, well, you could just go live with so-and-so, or, stay with your parents or do this or that. I have one parent who's very rural. I have another parent who it's just not a good living situation, or not the sort of like energy that I want to be around, even though they're like wonderful, loving people. So it's so important also to choose your environment and to make sure that you feel good wherever you are. So in a certain way, it's like maybe on a technical level, it becomes like choosing to live that way, but also a certain choice can mean like death to your soul. So you have to be happy, you have to be free, you have to feel a sense of personal responsibility in your life. And it's no one else's responsibility to teach me my lessons and to take care of my stuff, or any of that stuff. So that was part of it. And I chose to surrender. I chose to just say, what can I learn from this, and where is this adventure taking me?
Yeah, and I think that's what got you to be happy in a split second, is when you release all of these things that you want to have control over. What's fun about this is it's a blog, of during that time. It's a compilation of those, and you're right along with you, and yeah, and you can see the growth and you can feel it, and then all the experiences, and you talk about these aha moments and these gifts from the universe. And in that aspect, it was very much like my book, Safari for the Soul, and just the whole understanding that and just appreciating that and being in gratitude for that. Yeah,
Right. And that's
absolutely.
one of the reasons why I loved your book, is because, you're paying attention to these signs, you're paying attention to all of the messages and all of the intuitive essences that are guiding you down the path, instead of any external messages of what you should be doing. And if you follow that, it does show up as aha moments, as synchronicities, as just new awarenesses, just incredible things, one after the other. It's like a chain. It just starts happening.
Right.
And then that energy grows. And then we're just on this incredible adventure that started out like, oh, well, crap, I got to live in a Hyundai Tucson, I mean,
No,
that
I
idea,
know.
that sucks for people. Excuse my negative languaging, but it
Yeah.
downgrade sucks for some people, and other people it's like, wow. But another aha is just that absolutely everything in our life is a perception. So most of the people were supportive when I was on my journey, but a few of them were like, you're not safe, you're not successful, you've done so many things in your life. If you just stuck with what you started, you would have been more successful. Just all these ideas and messages and all this stuff that has to leave. But here's the thing, it's just perception. So if, like, for example, I'm sitting in my van right now, I have a home, I also have a van with my wife, and we adventure in the way that like I was living at the time. So this is a couple square feet bigger because I'm in a cargo van than my Hyundai Tucson. But what makes me successful now that I'm doing this, I'm not in a vehicle that's any safer than I was before. So, or like, what if I just had a tent and went to a campground and I'm like, oh, I live this great life and I get to go camping. Everyone is like, oh, that's wonderful. And you're
Right, right.
so successful because you can go camping. And it's like, well, I went camping every day for 2.5 years. I watched a sunset 365 days a year or a sunrise, whatever I wasn't working for, I saw. I slept on cliffs with $1 million views for free with no one around. And I watched seals wake up in the morning and ate fresh little shellfish straight off of a cliff. I mean, all these things that people pay millions of dollars to do and were so scared for me about were things that brought so much joy and so much adventure to my life. And it's all perspective. So it's
Right.
like now the people that were all scared for me, they're stoked that I have a van. I'm like, I used to have a van. I used to be doing this all the time. Now you're not scared for me? Like, what changed? The only thing that changed was your perspective. We are always safe. Our safety is within us, and we can always tap into our intuition and feel the safety that's within us and listen to your gut. If you don't feel right somewhere, leave instantly. It doesn't matter if you
Right.
have an official vet or not.
Listen
So
to your gut.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely key.
And maybe because it just has less windows so people can't see in.
Well, I mean, we put extra windows in ours. Because we don't want to feel like we're like in a box, where we can't breathe. I mean, and we want to see out our blind spots and everything. We want screen doors so we can cook in here and, all that stuff.
Right.
But I mean, I had darkened windows and things like that, but I never had a sense of not being safe or that I was not okay. I'm always cared for. I always have guides watching over me. And I feel good inside and I feel like I attract based on that.
Well, and I think that comes from it's about having trust, having faith. And I know when I was planning mine as much as I could plan it, getting my airline
Right.
tickets and such, I told people, I said, I don't want to hear any negatives. I mean, I kind of went through the fear stuff in my head and then I just let it go
Mm-hmm.
because I believed it really was for a reason. But what is fear? What does it stand for?
False evidence
It's
appearing real.
right, right. And fear is really because we don't know what's going to happen. It's the fear of the
Right.
unknown. And then people fear making changes in their lives and doing things that would bring them so much more joy and happiness if they just let go of that fear instead of saying, oh, what if I do that, then something bad could happen to me and then I won't make enough money, or what will people think about me, as opposed to what if I changed my job, what if I did something new and exciting, what if I lived my life like an adventure. And I love that saying
Right.
because I've said that for a long time, that are we being adventurous or are we living our life like an adventure? Those are two completely different ways of looking at it. And I think, which obviously you've experienced, when we live our life as an adventure, there's a little more joy in it. Yeah, the same thing, the same bad things can happen. But when you're on an adventure, it's more of looking at it like, well, it's a jungle out there. Things can happen. And you just learn to take it not so personally as opposed to this, day to day, oh, I got to do this, got to do this, got to do that. And if you have fun with looking at it like an adventure, like, oh, I'm going to go to a grocery store. I'm just going to pretend it's a grocery store in France. That would be so much more fun.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can make it be whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always think that like when you're having an adventure or when you create an adventure, it sort of has a beginning and an end, and those are great. But when you just live an adventurous life or you have an adventurous spirit, you are constantly in touch with possibility. And you're not focused on like, oh, this could happen and that would be awful. You're always saying to yourself, what could happen that could bring a new awareness, a new experience, a new friend, a new understanding of love, anything. You always have that openness to the possibility of what could come in that's amazing. I mean, we broke down on, it was something called like Sea Otter Cove Road or something like that in Oregon. And we had a flat tire and we're on this tiny little road. So we could have changed it, but we have AAA. So we called AAA and they're like, oh, it's going to be hours and hours. And I'm like, well, what amazing thing can come of this? So I went to the sun and I started stretching and looking over this beautiful cove with the ocean below, like, again, $1 million view cliffs. I see a bald eagle cross my view. And the guy ends up showing up in like 30 minutes. So I
Yeah.
didn't like flip out like, oh God, you've ruined my day and my adventure
Right.
and all this stuff. It's
Right.
just what possibility is out there. It's anything is possible. These things are little gifts placed in our laps.
Right. And there's always going to be, you could call them a mishap. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're a gift. And that happened with me. I was stranded when I was commuting from Portland to the coast working, I got, my car broke down, but I tell you what, it stopped at the most, right at the peak. I had a turn off and I could be under trees because it was hot. It was the end of summer. So,
Right.
and I wound up being there for hours, but I just was like, well, I'll just start making a list of all the things I got to do and just enjoy. And yeah, I just was like, well, it just is what it is. And as opposed to being like, oh my gosh, I hope somebody's not going to try to attack me.
Right. Yeah, everything is a choice. I mean, you made the choice to do that, and that's the difference between like an empowered, adventurous life and a disempowered, or let's say more negative life, where people are always focused on the things that went wrong, how it didn't work out for them. That's the person that's not going to end up at the top of the hill in the shade, because they're growing that sense of disgust of everything that's caving in on them. And that's human, and I get that. And I'm not trying to pass judgment on anyone, but if your greater outlook ends up being with the possibility and the adventure and less often on what is going wrong with you, you don't have to deny it. You can say, hey, this is not great, but I know something better's coming.
Right.
As soon as you adjust like the scale of those two things, then you end up with better outcomes. And it's not a huge change. It just takes a little bit of like tweaking your brain a little,
Yeah. And the more that you practice at it, and then when you get those results back, you're like, oh wow, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, you're like, I worked that muscle out
yeah,
today.
yeah, I'm gonna let go of that a little bit more and just say,
yeah,
well, what if, this is what I would like to see. Yeah,
right.
because there was another time where I got a same road through the mountains and it was pouring down rain and my car got a flat tire. And I just, and there was no phone cell service in that area.
Right.
So I instantly went, okay, universe, I could really use somebody to come and help me. And I kid you not, 3 seconds later, oh, here comes the sheriff. And he changed my tire for me, it was just like, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just in the flow, man. In the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What else? Any other words of wisdom about, I don't know, today's times are different. Okay, what about people that are really struggling right now with, they haven't got their unemployment check or whatever, that's, things have gone topsy-turvy. Is there any words of wisdom you can share about that?
That's a really good question. Because I'm not there now, but I was there then. I mean, I've been on the brink where,
right.
Just so that people know, I've been in thousands of dollars of debt with, in the book, I think it says $2.58 in my account. And the blessing is that I did not have children and things that I needed to care for. So I recognize that I'm in a slightly different situation than some families out there. But what is not different is really the essence that I want to get at. And that is that we are all unique and we are all special, but at the core of every one of us, we are the same and we do have the same choices. And that choice is to have thoughts that feel good, have thoughts that keep us in the possibility of what could come, or to not do that.
Right.
So right now you might have someone who's like, oh, my unemployment didn't come, COVID is a beast, my life is exploding. And that is happening for a lot of people. And it's an opportunity to purge whatever poverty is in your mind, body, spirit. This is your opportunity to purge that and to begin to recognize that abundance is your birthright, and that has nothing to do with money.
Right.
It's about freedom. So you deserve right now in this moment to have enough of all resources to live happily, freely, and live the life that you want. And you're not any different or less deserving or less of anything than anyone else on this planet. So when you begin to really feel that, and I can like feel that, like I have chills and goosebumps like I can't tell you right now. But when you really, really feel that, your external will begin to match it. And it may not be in 2 weeks from now, and it may not be this year, but when you see the evidence begin to change, you'll understand how your thinking is creating your external experiences.
Yeah.
And you cannot have thoughts that don't match your feelings. So you can't have the thought, I deserve better and everything is going to be so perfect for me one day, when your real belief is, I don't know how the heck they're going to get better, but I think that they will. So that's even still an okay thought. You know, you can't be totally wishing for billions of dollars. You have to be like, well, what does freedom feel like? How can I experience freedom today in this moment? And it might just be like, oh, well, I have the freedom to go pick a berry outside. If you haven't connected with doing something so simple like that, highly recommended, because you feel so abundant. You feel like it's the richest gold. Like, oh, when I eat a berry, I'm like, oh, I could just flip out and die happy. And it doesn't take any money to do that, you know? It doesn't take money to go press a flower. It doesn't take money to go write a letter of gratitude. And that's all fluffy stuff, but it's fluffy because it's important. And that those little things are the way to begin connecting. And that's what I did in the beginning when I had nothing and I was just out there. You have to start connecting to what you do have. You know, it's just, that's your end point.
Gratitude is such a huge energy booster. You know, it's way up there. And you are what you think about most of the time. And it's about the law of attraction, because it is an energetic phenomenon that, you know, energy goes out and looks to match like kind. So even if you're kind of a little doubtful of, well, I don't know if I could really be a millionaire, but okay, whatever. You know, if I could, you know, you make it simple and easy, and then just say, but you can't put it in a way of scarcity. Like, I'm really poor, I really need a lot of money. Well, that's in a negative.
Right.
As opposed to really saying, I'm so grateful for all this money coming into my life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it makes a huge difference. Absolutely, absolutely. And tapping into that and being grateful. And then
it changes everything.
Right. And then you ask, I would really like to have a sign to show that I'm on the right path. I would really like a sign to know that you heard what I said out there, universe, you know, or whatever your belief is. And I'm telling you, you will hear something on the radio, you'll see a sign, you'll pick up something and read something, and it will answer what you asked for.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It will.
Yeah. And I think that's what you
can't put a time limit on it, but it will happen.
Right. And that's what I think you and I both experienced was, I knew I was going to learn. There was a reason I was going on my quest, but I didn't know what was going to come out of it. And I had a belief that we can get signs, and if we pay attention, it'll tell us. And I think for both of us, that's exactly, we let go of any of the other expectations and all that came out and landed in our lap, and we were so grateful for all the good that did come. It's, yeah, it's
Yeah.
remembering to be grateful and write it down every day. Write down what you're grateful for, and write down, I believe that this will happen. And it's an energy thing. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Write down believable statements to yourself for
Right.
sure.
Right. Because you just kept putting those thoughts out there, and then little by little, everything started. I mean, you just wound up, oh, so and so needs a house sitter. So and so needs a pet sitter,
Yep.
and so and then you started being able to get money, and that's how it works.
Right. I mean, I can't say that I planned anything. I looked for work where I lived. It had been a while since I had a regular job. I was a bit of an entrepreneur. Um, that I was like coaching people to live their dreams and all this stuff, but
Mhm.
I reached a moment where I lost a part of myself and I went into an unhealthy relationship. And when you begin to lose yourself a little, you you disconnect from who you really are. And when you disconnect from really who you really are, it's hard to bring in abundance. It's hard to stay in alignment. So I had to disconnect from all of that negativity and get back to listening very clearly to who I was. And in doing so, I didn't make any assumptions of how it had to look like. So if I just got still, went to nature, I didn't even try to look for a job
Mhm.
initially. The thought of a job just made me
Right.
want to jump off a cliff, honestly. So I had to listen to that and say, okay, do I have a couple dollars in the bank where I can just sit in nature for a few days, or go to my friend's where she's watching some donkeys and dogs and help her, be of service because she was having a hard time? Yeah, I can do that. And that's going to help me feel better about who I
Right.
am and bring me back into nature and animals and what I love. Well, that created the seed for the person who needed a pet sitter, which created the seed that somebody needed their house cleaned. So all of these things that I used to do way in my past, not anywhere near like when I used to like do entrepreneur stuff and was feeling all great, and you get all into your ego and stuff. So I started to do things that brought me back closer to who I really am. And then the job came, and then this came, and then the new entrepreneur stuff came. And because I'm a freedom person, I don't want to work for people, I don't want to be on a schedule, and I deserve that. But I forgot that I deserved that. I started
Right.
chasing someone else's dream because
Right.
I lost a part of myself in that relationship, and I was disconnected, and I wasn't listening to the real possibility within myself. So highly recommend becoming homeless to chase the ego out of you. Because when you have to tell people like I was super successful, whatever that means, and doing great and coaching people, I help people live their dreams, it's all this I stuff, it will
Right.
just slam all that, because it's not about you at all. It is 100% about the other people around you, and just completely being like a channel and being of service in any capacity that you can. And if you have to clean a disgusting toilet and be of service and be grateful and be happy for that, then do it, because it will bring you to your next step.
Right. That's
It
right.
will.
It will bring, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why volunteering is so awesome.
Yeah.
Because when you reach out, you will wind up getting something back in return, and you never know where that's going to be, but it's always a great surprise. And the more that you do that, the more that you realize, wow, this stuff really works, man. And yeah, it's all about letting
Yeah.
go of the ego and understanding that you are deserving. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Ditto on everything you said.
Yeah. And people they lose hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They just, it's understandable. People lose hope. They're in like tough spaces right now. And I think just the whole consciousness of our planet, all of us in this conscious community are thinking about this right now. And we know that things are shifting, and it's going to take many of us going through dark times, perhaps, and finding a deeper place in ourselves so we can really live the lives we want to live and really be of service to this planet, each
Right.
other. And
Right.
um, and unfortunately, we've got to go through some darkness and some tough times to do that. But you got to focus on what's on the other end of that, because it is goodness. It's a lot
Yeah.
of goodness.
And you will survive. You will survive. The fear is because they don't know what it is. They think that they're not going to
Right.
survive for some reason or whatever. It's that fear that starts strangulating you. Right. There's fear of, will there be enough food to feed my family? But if you put it out there, thank you for providing me, my family, with food. Thank you for providing us with shelter. Thank you for providing little small job opportunities. You can look at this as a way of learning how to change your life around and change the energy around you. Because, yeah, we get stuck in the rat race, all these shoulds that we should have been doing, and we should have
Right.
shooting all over ourselves, and it's not what brings, right, they were not happy. And people are afraid of,
Yeah.
well, what I would really love to do, but I know what other people will say, and I don't know if I won't succeed. Well, what if you do? You always
Right.
go with your heart. You go with your calling, you go with your heart, and doors will open up. And they sure did for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, bit by bit. And I mean, I'm not like, some kind of multi-millionaire, but I live a millionaire life for sure. I have been out of the country like 5 times in the last 2 years. I met my love, my wife, Carol. We travel together. I have the kind of work that I can turn on and off any time of day that I want to, work or not work. Um, I have freedom back, and it's not about like how many dollars, it's whether or not I'm free to live the life that I want to. So I don't have any money stress, fear, worry, all that stuff that I thought would never go away. And the 100% solution to that was the messages to myself, getting authentically in the energy of believing that I deserved the best for myself, and purging all of the fears and ego that have been handed down to me through very well-meaning people in my life. If you just look at the fear that you were talking about, people are too scared to do their thing and live their dreams and all that. If you ask yourself, okay, I have this fear. Okay, where did the fear come from?
Right.
Is it outside of myself?
Mm-hmm.
Did I innately come through into this life with this fear? Or did somebody give this to me? Or did I witness this happening to someone
Right.
else who's not me? It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's not, that's not my
Right.
life.
Is it
Like when
real or
people would say,
perceived?
aren't you afraid you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna, yeah, like, aren't you gonna, like, afraid you're gonna get murdered or someone will kill you in your car? No, when does that happen? That's not my experience. I don't watch the news. I never hear about people getting murdered. I mean, it's only when other people tell me that people get murdered, but my life is a murder-free consciousness. You know what I mean? I'm not in denial that it happens. I'm just not choosing to fixate on it. Like,
Right.
why does it make you feel good that someone's going to take a hammer to my window at night and harm me? It's not possible.
Right.
Like, I had no unsafe situations. Like one night, I was parked at a 24-hour fitness, like in a very busy area, places I don't usually park. And someone went like this in my window. They put their hands and they looked in on me. And that never happened. But I think they probably were just curious, but it was a large male. And my whole body, I remember my eyes went like this. They opened up and my whole body became completely frozen. I could not move. And I
Mm-hmm.
closed my eyes and was instantly sleeping. And I woke up the next morning and I went, and I experienced the fear suddenly of that face in the window. And it's because I know my angels just were like, just swooped in on me. Like I'm still covered
Right.
in chills about it. So,
Right.
I'm always safe. I'm always safe.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to worry for each other in these ways. What we need to worry about and ask is like, are you living the life you really want to live? Are you
Right.
connected to the essence of your spirit? Are you sharing love with other people, animals,
Mm-hmm.
places? Are you bringing goodness everywhere that you go? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves, not like, are you afraid to get murdered or that you're not successful?
Right.
You know?
And a lot of that is just outside sources. I mean, you could have
Yeah,
been raised with, parents that they might have gone through the depression and
Right.
they were worried. And, you know, there's a lot of
Yes.
reason behind fear. But when you break that down as, okay, is it a real fear? Is it a perceived fear? And whose fear was it before it
Exactly.
got to you?
Yeah.
You know, because this is
It's
stuff
not
that's
mine.
embedded, right? It's embedded in us about,
Yeah.
well, girls, you shouldn't be walking out at night by yourself, you know.
Yeah. And I'm
And
like, take back the night, ladies.
yeah.
Go for a walk. Put your gym shoes on. Walk strong and powerful and get out there. You deserve to go for a run. This world is
Right.
safe. This world is full of loving people, but also be smart and use your
Be
intuition.
wise.
Yeah. So if
Right.
you're in like a gangster filled land and you're like, well, I think I'm just going to put some shorts on and go for a run, you know?
Yeah. You got to use some common sense with all that.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
that's a muscle to sharpen too. We have to like, we have so much fear in all these programs that we've stopped understanding how to really listen to the gift as women that we have. We have a
Exactly.
womb of intuition there that is like, I mean, you know this, it's so
Right.
powerful. And we know
Right.
instantly, and we need to start making choices from that place for sure. Not here.
Right. Yeah. It comes from here. And
Yeah.
I love how you keep bringing up about being out in nature. When absolutely, because when we're out there, it feeds us. We are a part of that and we lose that connection. And so when we're there, it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of like going back home. Now, for some people, they could be like, oh, there's bugs or whatever,
Right.
but they do feed us. There's chemistry and energy that they do feed us. And when we're quiet, that's when we get the messages that we're meant to get. Where suddenly, oh, you have this idea. Oh, I guess I could try that. I mean, things will just kind of pop
Hmm.
up out of thin air. Yeah, that's divine energy coming in and saying, try this.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to listen to that. And people they're out of habit of listening to it. You know, you got to strengthen that muscle, and it gets strengthened in silence and in nature. So if you're in a busy city and you can't get to a park once in a while, you might be feeling some anxiety. I mean, every anxious person I know lives around crowds and never goes to nature. Every single one of
Yeah.
them. So it's
Forest
not,
bathing.
yeah, it's not that, you know, you're bad or wrong because you're anxious. It's that you're not doing the things in your life that would allow that anxious energy to move through you. So if you sit
Right.
in the earth and you calm your breath and you breathe deep like 10 times, most of that can go away. But, you know, it takes a little bit of practice initially doing that. Most people get more anxious when they do. Or like, you know, people who are too citified, they're scared of squirrels, they're scared of ants, they're scared of everything.
Right.
Really. There's
Right.
nature deficiencies in people and they have unrealistic fears of things. So, you know, nature is our healer. It's just making that adjustment bit by bit. Maybe it's just sitting on your porch for a little bit, you know.
Right.
But
Hmm.
you will begin to calm, you will begin to clear the mind of the things that are not serving you. And you'll start to hear, like, oh, this is my next step, or this feels good, this doesn't feel good. You've got to understand what feels good for yourself and what doesn't
Right.
before you can make better decisions.
Right. And respect that.
Yes.
Because wouldn't you tell your kids that? Well, we don't,
Yeah.
as adults, we don't wind up following our own advice of what we would tell our kids.
Right. You always ask your kids, how are you feeling today? How was school today? What do you think about this? What do you theorize about that? Are you okay? Do you feel okay? But we don't ask ourselves that. Like, how am I feeling today? What do I need to like maybe feel better? Or what do I need to do to feel more aligned? I feel really whacked and out of alignment today. And then go do it, you know?
Right. Instead of, oh, but I have a to-do list.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it'll get done. It'll get
Yeah,
done.
do it,
Yeah,
but go for a walk first.
exactly.
Pick a
Exactly.
berry first.
I know. Yum.
Yay!
I know. I just picked a whole bowl of berries on our property. So I'm
Oh,
pretty happy.
oh,
Julie, thank you so much for joining me and our
thank you,
audience.
Jan.
Yes, it's fun. It's good
It was
energy.
wonderful.
It's really good energy. Again, homeless to happy in a split second.
Woo!
Yeah, Julie Cara Hoffenberg. I highly recommend it. Gives you food for thought. Where can people get this book?
There's a link to it for my website at Julie Cara, Cara, Hoffenberg.com, or you can just go straight to Amazon and look up Homeless to Happy in a split second. It's on Goodreads and like about 10 different places. And I sell at some stores in California, but that'll be branching out more. The best place is to just get it on Amazon or Goodreads right now.
All right. Well, thank you, Julie.
Thank you,
And
Jan.
continue to have fun on your adventure that you're on right now. And give my
Yeah,
love to Carol. And
will
it's
do.
just been so fun because
Love
I'm
to
like,
John and you.
yeah, because I've been able to say, oh, I used to live there. Oh, I used to hang out there. Everything you do, because you're doing some of the Western
Yeah,
states. So that's pretty fun. All right. Well, thank
yeah,
you
yeah.
and safe travels. And thank you, audience, for joining us.
Thank you, Jan. Love
Bye-bye.
you. Talk soon.
I love you.